out there from Badger Rock. Here we are for another of our Rooted at Badger Rock Garden workshops, our virtual workshop series. We are going to be talking today about edible weeds, and we are going to collect some edible weeds and also some medicinal weeds so that you all can make an edible weed pesto at home to put on pasta or crackers. Delicious, so easy to make, and also an herbal salve that's a healing salve for your skin. So we're going to just do a little walk around the garden and check out what's growing here, and then we'll head into the kitchen and show you all how to make the salve. We did make the pesto for a cooking workshop last week, so we will put in the link in the comments after we post this as a video so that you can check out how to make the pesto. And when you make it, just substitute in the edible weeds instead of the garlic scapes that we used last week, and you should be good to go for a delicious meal out of what Mother Nature has provided for us unasked. So we're going to start right here in this beautiful patch because there's so many edible and medicinals growing right here. This beautiful flower that you might recognize, this is called calendula. Its Latin name is Calendula officinalis. Herbs that have the species name of officinalis are herbs that are officially in an herbal somewhere in the world. So they're an official herbal medicine. So that's a hint to you if the species name of a plant is officinalis. Look it up and see what its medicinal uses are because it has one. So calendula is a really, really great herb, both for making things beautiful. Look at that beautiful bright color, making your spirits happy just by picking it for one thing. But you can also take the petals off of it and put it in a salad to brighten up your salad. The petals are edible. You can use it in a skin preparation too, though, because calendula is one of nature's great skin healing herbs. So calendula heals your skin from the outside in. So if you have a very, very deep cut, you might want to avoid the calendula at first and start with an herb that's healing from the inside out first, so you don't end up healing over that deep wound and have festering happen below. So calendula is great for scrapes and scratches. If you buy herbal skin products in the community pharmacy or anywhere that you buy them, look at the ingredients. Chances are there will be calendula in it. So the part that you use is just the petals, and all season long you can collect these flowers right when they bloom and dry them. Drying them is really simple. All you have to do is lay them out in a single layer so they're not stacked, and they will just dry on their own, and you can use those calendula petals for the whole season. And the more you pick them, the more flowers the plant will make. So you can see all these little closed flowers. These are just waiting to open until we give them a little boost, because when you take the flower, you're also taking the future seeds of the plant. So the plant is like, oh, I better make more flowers because I still need to make my seeds. Somebody took those from me. So if you pick calendula flowers, it will encourage the plant to flower more. So you can collect those over the whole season. We are collecting these for the herbal salve we're going to make in the kitchen. That is a healing salve for our skin. So that's just one of the many edible plants I see around here. Another one is this little beautiful plant. Some people call it sorrel, some people call it oxalis, some people, like my son, made up a name for it. He calls it bonus celery for some reason. I don't know why, but this is an edible weed that has a really like a sour taste. If you like sour, some people also call it sour grass. You can eat this. It's got heart-shaped petals and little yellow flowers with 5 petals. And I should say, if you are foraging on your own for the first time, make sure that you forage with somebody who's so familiar with the plants that there's no doubt about what you're collecting. Because you don't want to accidentally collect what you think is an edible and find out later that it's actually not. So make sure that you really get to know your plants well before you go out foraging on your own. But this is a delicious one. You can add it as a little pop to salads. You can just taste it along the way. You don't want to eat a whole ton of this, just because that sour flavor is also oxalic acid. And if you have too much of that in your diet, it can block your body from absorbing other nutrients. So take it, enjoy it, in smallish amounts. It'd be hard to eat enough of this to make it a problem though. So that is oxalis. And over here I see another little one growing down low. This one is, when you pick it, you can feel it. It feels almost like a cactus. It has kind of that succulent feel to it. And it's got tiny little pinprick looking holes on the back of the leaf. And it's got a really nice, juicy, succulent stem. This is called purslane. And this is actually the only plant that I know of that has omega-3 fatty acids, which is that nice, healthy fat that you find in fish. So purslane is a great one to pick and just eat plain. Throw it in your salads. One of my other favorite ways to use it is to pickle it. You can either do cheater pickles, which means to me a cheater pickle is you buy pickles, you eat all the pickles, and then you put your purslane in the brine that's left behind. Or you can make your own brine with vinegar, salt, and water and pickle your own purslane. But it is delicious, and purslane is one of my family's favorite kinds of pickles to eat. So that is delicious. And that's another edible growing right in this little patch. Let's see. I see another one over here too that's edible. You don't have to go far. When you become a forager, your plant walks can sometimes be 5 feet, and you'll find everything that you need to eat for your meal in a very small space. So this plant, you can see these little purple spots on the leaves. They look almost like thumbprints. This is called lady's thumb, and this is another edible plant. This one I would cook instead of eating it raw. It's just a little tougher, but it's a great one to pick and just to cook up with your greens. Saute it like you would with any greens, and it is delicious. Add the seasoning that you want. Super delicious, super nutritious. Once you see it once, you'll start seeing it everywhere. So another thing to keep in mind is when you harvest edible plants, make sure that there is an abundance, because you don't want to over harvest. There's an organization called United Plant Savers. You can go to their website and it will help you figure out which plants are actually endangered that you should not harvest from just anywhere, because there are lots of plants like that that have actually been super over harvested as herbal medicine has gotten more and more popular, that are now super endangered and depleted in the wild. Many of those herbs are things that you use the roots of, so you have to pull the whole plant out to harvest it, and when you take the root, you're taking the whole plant. So when you pick, my kind of rule of thumb is only pick 1/3 of a stand of plants and leave 2/3 to keep growing to replenish the area. So just a little thing to keep in mind when you are doing wild crafting is to just know the plants that you pick and make sure they are abundant, make sure they're not endangered, and make sure they are the plant that you think they are. So yeah, those are some in here. We're going to go on a little walk to the other part of the garden just to see what else is growing. So many weeds you can eat. You don't even need to plant a garden, to be honest. Mother Nature will plant one for you. Oh yes, I see lots in here. At this time of year, there are weeds everywhere, which is part of why we're doing this workshop. So in here, this is another one of my favorites that is so abundant, you never have to worry about harvesting too much of this. This is called lamb's quarters. You can see the leaf is kind of an arrow shape, and if you look at the back of the leaf, it almost looks like shimmery, like jewels on the back of the leaf. This is a very, very common weed, and it is really full of nutrients. It's got more vitamins in it than spinach. You can eat it fresh. You can cook it. I prefer to eat it fresh, but if you do, you should pick it when it's young before it goes to flower, because the leaves get a little tough. But you can see when I rub on the back of the leaf, those white pearly things just come right off. So if that happens really easily, that's a hint that it's probably lamb's quarters that you're working with. Delicious, nutritious. You can make tacos out of it. Oh my gosh, you can do anything with this weed too. So that's a big one. Here's some more purslane in here, just to see how it grows low to the ground, kind of like a ground cover. It's growing in here. We have also this one, pigweed. This is called pigweed. This is also called wild amaranth. You can see the pink bottom To the root, that is a hint that it is probably pigweed or wild amaranth that you're picking. This, just like regular amaranth, you can eat the leaves and they're really nutritious, or you can let the plant go to seed and collect the seeds. If you've ever seen amaranth in the store, it's one of the ancient grains that's coming back in popularity. This is wild amaranth and also makes that same kind of grain. It's the seeds from the flowers that you're eating when you eat that grain. But you can also eat the leaves, and they're really nutritious and delicious. So let's see. We've met lamb's quarters. We've met purslane. We've met wild amaranth or pigweed. We've met calendula. And we're going to go pick a couple more herbs for our salve, for our skin care medicine over here. Oh, and here's another one to know about. This one, another one you can never harvest too much of. This is called dandelion. You all might recognize. One thing to know about dandelion is there are a lot of dandelion lookalikes. So you'll know it's a real dandelion when the leaves are coming directly from the same middle spot on the ground. That's called a basal rosette. And there's going to be one stalk coming up with one flower on it. If you have a stalk coming up and there are multiple flowers coming off of that stalk, it's not a dandelion. So you can't use it in the same way. But the leaves, when they're young and tender, you can put in a salad, you can eat them fresh. These are really great diuretic. If you're retaining water, you can take these to help your body release some of that water. But most diuretics deplete your body of potassium. Dandelion leaf has tons of potassium in it. So it's replenishing that potassium while it also helps you get rid of water. It's also a bitter. I feel like in the United States, culturally, we've lost our taste for bitters except for coffee. But bitters are a really, really important part of diet across the world to support your digestive system. And your digestive system is really sort of like your second immune system. Think about your digestive system. That's one spot where your body interfaces with the outside world, right? From your mouth all the way through. And so if you can make your digestive system strong, you're also going to strengthen yourself to resist bacteria and viruses and things that are coming in from the outside. So dandelion leaf, you can also use the root. The root of a dandelion is a great source of iron if you're anemic. It's also a great thing to take if you're constipated. So dandelion root is great to use in a tea. You can roast the roots and make a coffee substitute. Super delicious. And the flowers, if you've ever heard of dandelion wine, that's what that's made out of, is the dandelion flowers. So we're going to head on into our food forest. And we're going to collect one more plant for our salve. This plant with these purple flowers and these almost, I don't know if I'd call them spiky, kind of, you can hear that sound of them crinkling. Maybe you can hear the sound. It's sandpapery a little bit, the leaf. This is called comfrey. This is another skin healing herb that you'll find in so many skin preparations. And this one is one that heals your skin from the inside out. So for a deep wound, this is great to add comfrey, and it will actually help your skin heal faster. Comfrey has a lot of uses internally too, but you will be discouraged from using comfrey internally by all the different companies because of something in it called pure lizardine alkaloids, which some people think can contribute to liver issues if you ingest it internally. And you should look at the use of herbs over time, because comfrey has been used for thousands and thousands of years, internally and externally. Ulcers is one of the historical uses for it because it actually heals your ulcer inside your stomach. I am not going to recommend using comfrey internally because of those warnings, but me personally, I would use comfrey internally. So we're going to collect some of this for our salve. You don't need a whole lot. All right, so now we have two of the great skin healers right here in our bucket. We have calendula and we have comfrey. And the calendula, you use the flowers, and the comfrey, you use the leaves. All right. And I should say the strongest part of a comfrey plant too is the root. So, oh, look at this. I can't walk by this without talking about this too. This beautiful little plant is called borage. There's a little saying called borage for courage, because this plant is supposed to lift your spirits, and the part that you use is the flower. Make sure there's not ants, because the ants like the nectar on these, but if you pick a little flower, you can just eat it. Give yourself a little pop of good energy. It balances your nervous system and can help you just find balance and get back to your joy if you're missing it. They're good. Okay, we're gonna head on this way. And we're gonna check out one more skin herb before we head to the kitchen and make our salve. So our garden workshops all summer long. We'll have an in-person option at 3 o'clock every Sunday as part of our community market from 3 to 4. There will be a post about it every week on our Facebook page with an Eventbrite sign up. So don't miss out if you want to come in person. And we will also offer each of those workshops virtually still at 1 o'clock on Sundays. So you can catch them either way. Oh, and here it is right here. Look at this. It's like I ordered it up. So right here, this little plant down here is growing very low to the ground. Again, the leaves grow in a basal rosette like the dandelion does, right next to some lady's thumb. See those little thumbprints? There's that lady's thumb again. But you can look at the leaf of this plant, how the veins are all growing in the same direction. Those are called parallel leaf veins, and that is a characteristic of this plant, which is called plantain. And if you check out the flower, it's really pretty inconspicuous, right? That's because this doesn't need to be beautiful or smell good or anything, because it is pollinated by the wind, not by insects. This is a plantain flower, and this is a plantain leaf. And the best use of this plant is for bee stings. So if I get stung by a bee, I will chew up a leaf or squish up a leaf and put it on the sting. And it has a drawing power. It's astringent, so it will pull the bee venom out so that your body has less of a reaction to it. So this is another pretty common thing to add into skin care treatments herbally. So we're going to pick a little bit of that for our salve as well. All right, and we are going to head on into the kitchen. So we will see you there in a minute. All right, so here we are in the kitchen, ready to make our herbal salve. So a lot of those weeds that we met outside, the lamb's quarters, the lady's thumb, the dandelion leaf, those can all go into a pesto that I mentioned. And if you want to check out last week's cooking demo, our cooking workshop, we had a pesto recipe in there and walk you through all the steps how to make it. So we're going to let you all explore that one on your own. Just substitute in the edible weeds instead of the garlic scapes, or in addition to, you could throw some basil in there too if you want to get that familiar pesto flavor. But that is there for you to explore on your own. And today we are going to show you all how to make an herbal salve, which is sort of a lip balm consistency herbal preparation for your skin. They're so easy to make. All you need is some olive oil. So I'm going to put a little olive oil in this cooking pot. And what we're doing basically is making a tea, but instead of water as the base, olive oil is the base. So we're going to warm up these herbs in the olive oil. If you want to have an even stronger oil, you can infuse the herbs ahead of time by packing them in a jar and adding the olive oil and letting them sit in a warm, sunny window for like a month. And just shake the oil back and forth over time so that all those bits of the herbs get in touch with all that oil. Then strain the plants out and you'll have a really beautiful infused oil. That's if you have the time. This is going to be a fast method for if you don't have that much time. So you can take the calendula. This is the one that I mentioned as a skin healing herb. This is the one that heals your skin from the outside in. So it's great for shallow cuts and scrapes, or in combination with comfrey to get that deep healing first from the comfrey leaf. So calendula. And this is, again, Calendula officinalis is the name for this plant. So it's officially in an herbal somewhere in the world. And we're going to just take these petals. You can honestly put the middles of the flowers in there too if you like. You don't have to just stick with the petals. But the petals are where most of the medicine is. So we're just going to get those flowers in that oil. And then we are going to take the comfrey leaf. And you can rip or cut up the comfrey leaf, or you can use scissors. Scissors are a great tool for making salve. Just to get the herbs into smaller pieces. The smaller the pieces, the more of that plant is in contact with the oil, so the stronger your medicine will be. And comfrey, again, we're using the leaf, and this is one that heals your skin from the inside out. So it's a great one to use on deep cuts so that you can get that skin healing. And comfrey, though, if you plant it in your garden, watch out because it will spread. So you plant it someplace you want it to be for a long time. And then here again is that plantain with the parallel leaf veins, and the leaves grow in a basal rosette around the base, growing straight out of the ground. And this is, I call this the bee sting herb. It's got an astringent drawing quality. So if you put it on a bee sting, it will pull that venom out so that you'll have less of a reaction to the sting. It's also a great just astringent for your skin, for skin toning, because of that astringent quality. So we're going to keep our salve really simple with these today, but another herb I love to throw in there is lavender flowers. Lavender is a really powerful, not only stress reduction herb from the smell and sleep aid, it calms your nervous system. It's also a really great anti-inflammatory for your skin. So it can help with swelling, bumps, bruises, get that inflammation down. So I'm going to put a little olive oil, a little lavender in there. Even though we didn't pick that from the garden, we did have some out there. I just walked right by it. So we're just going to add some olive oil. And then we are going to cook this oil over a low heat. Ideally, you would cook it for a long time over a low heat. But if you have less time, you can cook it over a little bit higher heat for a shorter time. You just want to watch for bubbling. If your oil starts to bubble, it is time to take it off the heat. So one of my favorite tools for making salves is a chopstick, because after we get this olive oil all warm and the plant's steeping in there, we are going to add something to solid up that olive oil a little bit into a lip balm consistency. And what does that for us is beeswax. And so when you use a chopstick, you have less to try to wash wax off of. So that's why I like to use a chopstick instead of a spoon. So we're just going to get those warming in there. I'm just going to let that be for a minute, and I'm going to show you all the options for beeswax. So here at Badger Rock, we have our own honeybees, and what we do when we collect the honey from the bees is we mash up the beeswax and the honey all together. We just smush up that whole comb to release the honey, and we let it drain with gravity through a colander to collect the honey below. And we collect the slurry of wax and bee parts and all of that in a piece of cheesecloth. And we put that cheesecloth with all of that inside it, inside a pan, and we put this pan inside of another bigger pan of hot water to make a double boiler. And when we turn that double boiler on, all of the wax and honey that's left in that slurry inside the cheesecloth will melt and come out, and you'll be left with this when it cools. You end up with like a hockey puck piece of beeswax on top of the honey. You can see all that honey, and you can see all that wax. So this is called rendering the wax. This is how you get the wax to separate from the honey, because it melts and comes out of that cheesecloth, and then when it cools, it will float to the top and solidify in one puck like that. So that is how we get our beeswax from our honeybees here at Badger Rock. And we just use that honey for making salve, for making candles, all the things you could use beeswax for. And you can also buy it if you want to. It comes in pellets and it comes in chunks. And you can get it you can find it online. You can also get it at most hardware stores. But if you have bees or have a friend that has bees, I encourage you to use that because that is the good stuff. And beeswax can be a little expensive, so it's great if you can harvest your own. So here's some wax from our bees, and I'm going to just add some wax to my olive oil over here. It's starting to bubble, so I'm going to take it off the heat. Like I mentioned, we don't want it to bubble. And I'm just going to break up this wax into this olive oil plant mixture over here. And then I'm going to stir this in, and that beeswax will melt. And once it's fully melted, we're going to pour this whole mixture through a sieve to get the plants out. And what will come through the sieve is the olive oil and the melted beeswax. And that olive oil at that point will be nicely infused with all that good medicine from the plants. I'm just going to mix this up. Keep stirring it constantly once you put the beeswax in. Wax can combust if it's in direct contact with fire. So that's why we do a double boiler method, to get the wax out of the honey when we process it from our bees. But for this, because it's so diluted in the oil, it's going to be fine to do right on the stovetop. But we're going to just stir it constantly and then take it off once that wax is melted. So you can tell the wax is melted when you can't see it anymore. You can see it's pretty much gone. And then what we're going to do, oh, it smells good too. We're going to take this little piece of cheesecloth here, and I'm going to put some cheesecloth over a fine mesh colander. I'm going to pour this mixture through, and then I'm going to press on the top to get all of that oil wax goodness out of the cheesecloth. Then I'll put that aside and get yourself a little container. You can use a little mason jar if you have it. You can use, I've used little paint containers from craft stores before when I've had them. Or you can buy containers online or at any kind of store. Community pharmacy has them too, I believe. And you're just going to pour the wax and infused oil into these containers, and you're just going to let it be for a minute. And what's going to happen is within a few minutes it will cool, and what you'll end up with is a lip balm consistency salve that you can just get on your finger to use on your skin and your lips for healing. So that is just a few edible medicinal herbs that you can find at this time of year, and a couple ideas for what you can do with them. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed it, and let us know what you thought if you make these at home. And if you have other ideas of things you can make out of these herbs, please pop them in the comments. We love to learn from you all as well. And we will see you all next time. Thanks for tuning in.